Hi, this is Dan Whitney with the Whitney Law Firm in Towson, Maryland. Um, Today we're going to talk about the issue of car dealer settlements, and particularly in a forgery case that I've settled. So before I get started, I just wanted to say my number of subscribers has gone up significantly, and that's in no small part due to Kevin Hunter, the homework guy, giving me a shout out on his channel and featuring one of my videos and commenting on it. So Kevin, thank you, I appreciate it, and keep spreading the good word. So one person left a comment and said that they would like to hear some information about settlements. So a good topic for settlements is always forgery. Forgery cases are generally pretty good cases against car dealerships. If a dealer has forged a contract and sent it to a bank, essentially by default they've committed bank fraud, they've committed wire fraud. There's state criminal causes of action, state laws that have been violated as well. And really, when a customer discovers that their signature has been forged, they have a lot of leverage, and it's probably more leverage than they might realize to get whatever the problem is, to get that resolved, and then some very often. So first off, before I talk about what actually happened in this case, a very good tip for anybody who buys a car and finances it. After you buy the car, after the paperwork's finalized, you should get your copy of the deal, whether it's a carbon copy and some paper copies or a USB. What you should do is this: call the bank that you believe your loan got financed with, and ask them to send you a copy of the finance contract and any warranty or vehicle service contracts that the dealer sent to them. The reason is this: a lot of my clients, a lot of people discover when they do this that their signature has been forged and the numbers changed, either on the actual finance contract itself or on the warranty paperwork or vehicle service contract paperwork. On the finance contract, the purpose of the forgeries is almost always to make more money for the dealership, whether it's decreasing an interest rate in order to make some more room for the total amount financed, where they increase the price of the car. And if they're smart about it and they're careful, they'll keep the monthly payments the same. So unless you were specifically checking, you would not notice a difference in any of your terms. Sometimes there's forgeries because the finance manager gets lazy and they maybe put the VIN down wrong, or some, quote, harmless, not really harmless, but harmless error. And they'll just print another copy, change the error, forge your signature, and send it off. And chances are you'll probably never find out. Now, on the warranty and vehicle service contracts, what you want to look for is to make sure that you receive the coverage that you paid for. I have cases now where somebody purchased, say platinum level coverage for 100,000 miles. And they go to make a warranty claim, and it turns out that all of a sudden platinum coverage for 100,000 miles somehow dropped down to silver coverage for 75,000 miles. And of course that's an issue because the coverage level isn't as high, the mileage is not such a long period, and they get less than what they've paid for, and they've been cheated. So it's always a good idea, no matter what, just cover your bases, contact the bank, review what they send you, put it side by side, and go from there. Now, in the case to discuss today, this happened at a car dealership in Waldorf, Maryland. And my client was a 60-something-year-old lady, a very nice woman, who went in to buy a new car. And she went in, selected the car she wanted, picked out her payment term of, I think, 72 months, chose a payment that worked for her, which was essentially $460 a month, signed her paperwork, got a copy of it, went home, and didn't think twice about it until she gets a letter in the mail from the bank, or her first statement from the bank, and instead of her payment being $460, now her payment is $485. Of course, that's not right. Something is going horribly wrong. And as a tip, if your payment is supposed to be a certain number, which of course it is, and it's either less or more, that is a huge red flag that something has gone wrong, and you should absolutely get a copy of your paperwork and figure out what it was. It's probably not going to be a harmless reason. It'll probably be the fact that you've been cheated or defrauded somehow by the dealer. But back to the case. So my client gets this, sees her payments are now $25 more than they should be. And she calls the finance manager, a woman named Laura, who had worked with her, and said, Laura, my payments are $25 higher. What's going on? And Laura said, oh, we're just working it out with the bank. Don't you worry. We'll figure it out. But in the meantime, why don't you come up to the dealership and I will give you a free tank of gas while we work this out. So my client says, okay, whatever. Goes up to the dealership, gets a certificate for the gas, leaves. 30 more days pass. It's the second statement. Now, nothing has changed, and her payments are still $485 a month instead of $460. So she calls Laura, and Laura tells her, we're still trying to work it out, and we are going to give you a free car wash for your trouble. So she says, well, okay, whatever. Goes up, gets the ticket for a free car wash, and figures, all right, by 90 days, certainly everything will have been resolved by then. Of course, 90 days rolls around and nothing has been done. She still gets the statement in the mail showing $485 a month for her car payment, and she gets upset. So now she gets her daughter on the phone, who calls the dealership, speaks with somebody other than Laura, and is told by this other person, we don't know what you're talking about for payments that should be $460 a month. We only have a copy on file of the contract that says $485. So of course, none of this sounds right. And the daughter quickly realizes something's gone horribly wrong with her mother. The dealership is doing something wrong. So she does a Google search and finds us, calls, sends her documents in, sends in the statement, and I quickly see that, okay, the payment should be $460. Here it's $485. Obviously something has gone wrong. So we get a copy of the contract that the dealer sent to the bank. And sure enough, my client's signature had been forged about 4 or 5 times, plus her initials. And here's what they did. After she left the dealership, they put together a new contract, and the amount financed was increased by approximately $2,000. The interest rate was decreased just a little bit, I think from about 10% to 9.5%. And the $2,000 increase was about $1,600 of it was added onto the contract as an aftermarket product, a vehicle service contract, and the other $400 or so was just added to the price of the car. So you would say to yourself, why in the world would a car dealership give a client a vehicle service contract without telling them? What could be the benefit of that? Well, I'll tell you exactly what it is. And the reason they do this, finance managers, the dishonest ones do this, is because their pay plans are based in large part on something called product penetration and gross per car. And what that simply means is product penetration is how many aftermarket products, dent and ding, vehicle service contract, extended warranty, interior, exterior protection, all those different things. How many of those are they selling per car? How many are they going to sell per month? And of course, how many extra dollars per car can they charge a customer? And of course, for both, the more the merrier, the more money they're going to make. So what had happened was this finance manager took it upon herself to add $2,000, sell essentially a fake product, so she could get credit for selling that, and then tack the extra $400 on. And what seemed remarkable to me is the fact that even after my client called her on it and realized, hey, something's not right, she didn't take the steps to say, oh my gosh, I think I'm about to get caught. Let me unwind this whole thing and do the right thing. She kept leading her on and just essentially offering nothing, a free tank of gas, a free car wash. So we file the lawsuit, and they basically say, their lawyer said, you know, what's the big deal? It's about $2,000. We'll give you $2,000. So obviously that's not going to cut it. So we start going back and forth. We start litigating the case. And one of the things with litigation is it can take a very long time. It could take anywhere from 8 months to 12 months to 14 months. In the era of COVID, with the significant COVID delays, you could be looking at 18 months. And so when it's time to determine what is a proper settlement value of the case, the first question is to the client. What is it that you want to have happen? Tell me what you want, and I'll tell you if I can make it happen and if I think it's reasonable based on my experience. So we spoke with the client. I spoke with the client, and I said, okay, what is it that you would like to have happen? She said, you know, I don't really want to litigate for a year. I'd like to get this resolved. The whole thing's very stressful. I would like to have a free car out of the deal. I said, okay, well, I think we can do that. So we went back and forth and we negotiated, and it took about, I think, 2 to 3 months. And sure enough, we got to a point, we had filed some motions to get some discovery, meaning some documents they did not want to produce. And we got to a point where we went back and forth and we were able to settle the case for $50,000. And that worked out very well because our client was able to essentially pay off her car and have some money left over. And of course, attorney's fees came out of that, so she doesn't pay any attorney's fees on that. And the whole thing worked out very well. So that was one recent forgery case. Of course, all cases are different, and some other forgery cases that I've handled have settled for less, and some have settled for significantly more. And it all just depends on the facts of the case. What does the client want? And several other factors, you know, the time frame, and some other factors that can go into it. So that's a story of a $50,000 car dealership settlement involving forgery. It's always very important to check your documents. I hope this has been helpful. Of course, as soon as you buy a car, give it a month and request those documents from the bank to see if this has happened to you. Of course, if this happened in Maryland, which is where I primarily handle cases, please don't hesitate. Give me a call and we can talk about what your options are. Consultations are always free. I appreciate you watching. Thanks again to Kevin Hunter, the homework guy. And if you have any thoughts on other car dealer questions or videos you'd like to see, please just leave it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.